In the rolling farmland of northeastern Missouri, far from major cities and public attention, stands a facility few Americans ever think about but many fear, Northeast Correctional Center. From the outside, it looks unremarkable. Low concrete buildings, fenced perimeters, guard towers spaced with precision, but appearances can be misleading, because inside these walls is a prison designed for one purpose: control, not rehabilitation, not comfort, not second chances, control. This is a maximum security correctional facility operated by the Missouri Department of Corrections, housing individuals convicted of serious violent crimes, many serving long or life sentences for. The men inside Northeast Correctional Center is not a temporary stop. It is a destination, a place where time stretches, routines dominate, and freedom becomes a memory rather than a goal. This documentary is not about rumors, not about exaggeration, not about sensationalism. It is about structure, systems, and the lived reality of incarceration. Inside one of Missouri's most restrictive prisons. To understand Northeast Correctional Center, you must first understand what it was built to handle. Missouri's prison system includes facilities of varying security levels, minimum, medium, and maximum. Northeast Correctional Center sits at the highest end of that spectrum. It houses individuals classified as high risk due to the nature of their convictions there. Sentence length, behavioral history, institutional security needs many inmates here are serving decades behind bars. Some are serving life sentences. Others have already spent years moving through lower security facilities before being transferred here by the time someone arrives at Northeast Correctional Center. The system has already decided something important. This is not a person who can be safely managed in a less restrictive environment, and that decision shapes everything that follows. Northeast Correctional Center is intentionally remote, surrounded by open land and small communities. The prison's isolation serves a purpose. Distance limits escape opportunities. Distance limits outside interference. Distance reinforces separation for families. That distance can mean hours of travel for short, tightly controlled visits for inmates. It means fewer reminders of life beyond the fence. Inside the perimeter, movement is controlled. Access is limited. Surveillance is constant. This is not chaos. It is order enforced by design. When an inmate arrives at Northeast Correctional Center, the transition is immediate. There is no adjustment period, no gradual easing into the environment. Orientation is direct. Rules are explicit. Consequences are clear. Housing units are secure. Cells are functional, not personal. Every movement, meals, counts, recreation, work assignments follows a schedule. The message is unmistakable. Your time is no longer your own. For some inmates, this environment feels oppressive. For others, it feels predictable. But for everyone, it is absolute. Routine is the backbone of Northeast Correctional Center. Counts happen at the same times. Meals arrive on schedule. Movement occurs only when authorized. Noise is regulated. Behavior is monitored. In a maximum security environment, routine is not about comfort. It is about risk management. Predictability reduces surprises. Surprises create danger here. Routine is safety for staff and inmates alike, and yet, behind that structure lies tension. Because when people are confined for years or lifetimes, routine can stabilize the body while slowly testing the mind. Over the course of this documentary, we will explore daily life inside Northeast Correctional Center, how maximum security shapes behavior, the psychological effects of long-term confinement, violence, discipline, and control, the role of staff in maintaining order, how inmates adapt or fail to adapt over time. This is not a story of heroes or villains. It is a story of systems, of rules, and of human beings existing inside them. Northeast Correctional Center does not exist in headlines. It exists quietly, relentlessly, day after day. And once you enter this world, nothing feels simple anymore. To truly understand Northeast Correctional Center, you must go beyond the perimeter and into the structure itself, because in this prison, architecture is not neutral. It is a tool. Northeast Correctional Center is not a prison built for notoriety. It is built for control. Located in Bowling Green, Missouri, NECC functions as a maximum security facility within the Missouri Department of Corrections. It houses individuals serving long sentences, many for violent or repeat offenses, alongside others whose classification requires close supervision. This is not a county jail, and it is not a transitional facility. NECC is designed for inmates who will spend years, sometimes decades, inside its walls. From the outside, the complex appears orderly and unremarkable. Long concrete buildings, perimeter fencing, guard towers placed at calculated distances, nothing. Flashy, nothing symbolic, but inside. The structure reflects its true purpose, containment through routine. Every aspect of life at NECC is governed by classification levels, housing placement, movement privileges, work assignments, recreation access. Each inmate's day depends on where they fall within the prison's internal system. Some live in traditional cell housing with solid doors and limited movement. Others are assigned to more controlled units with stricter schedules. A smaller number are placed in segregation units where movement is minimal and contact is limited, and NECC operates on a strict count schedule. Counts occur multiple times a day, including overnight. Every inmate must be accounted for. Every discrepancy is investigated. Meals follow rigid time. Blocks movement between areas happens only under staff supervision. Even silence is structure. For correctional officers, NECC is a facility where routine equals safety. Predictability allows staff to identify disruptions quickly, any deviation, late movement, unusual noise. Altered behavior is noticed. This is how order is maintained, unlike prisons portrayed in popular media. NECC does not rely on constant force. Instead, it relies on systems, procedures, documentation, layers of supervision. Every interaction is logged, every incident is reviewed, every rule violation becomes part of a permanent record. That record follows an inmate throughout their sentence affecting housing, privileges, and future classification decisions for inmates. This creates a different kind of pressure, not chaos, not constant violence, but permanence. Every action matters, every reaction has consequences. At NECC, time does not move quickly. Days stretch, weeks blur, years settle into repetition. Some inmates adapt by withdrawing. Others focus on work assignments or educational programs when available. A few attempt to maintain a sense of identity through routine exercise, reading, writing, but no one escapes the reality of where they are because NECC is not designed for transformation overnight. It is designed to hold people safely, securely, and consistently for the long term. And while incidents do occur as they do in any maximum security facility, the defining feature of NECC is not constant conflict. It is controlled through structure, a system where stability depends on compliance, where silence is often preferred to confrontation, and where the environment itself slowly reshapes how people think, react, and exist. By the time someone has spent years inside Northeast Correctional Center, the prison is no longer just a place. It becomes a framework, one that defines how time, behavior, and survival are understood, and that framework sets the stage for everything that comes next. Life inside Northeast Correctional Center does not begin with chaos. It begins with routine. Every day inside NECC follows a structure that rarely changes. A system built to maintain order in a maximum security environment where predictability is considered a form of control. For incarcerated individuals, mornings start early. Lights activated at a fixed time, followed by head counts conducted by correctional officers moving cell to cell. Each person must be accounted for. Every absence, every delay, every irregularity triggers an immediate response. Breakfast is served shortly after. Meals are basic, standardized, and delivered on strict schedules. Depending on housing assignment, individuals may eat in their cells or in supervised dining areas. Conversations are limited. Movement is monitored. The focus is efficiency, not comfort. At NECC, movement is one of the most controlled aspects of daily life. Inmates do not move freely from one place to another. Every transition, whether to medical, education, work assignments, or recreation, requires clearance, escort, and coordination. Doors open and close electronically. Hallways are supervised. Timing is precise for many incarcerated individuals. The day includes work assignments. These can range from facility maintenance and kitchen duties, too. Laundry, sanitation, or institutional labor. Jobs provide structure, modest compensation, and a way to pass time. But positions are limited, not everyone is assigned work, and access often depends on classification level and behavior history. Education and programming exist, but availability is affected by security level, staffing, and institutional priorities. Some individuals participate in GED programs, vocational training, or substance abuse counseling. Others remain on long waiting lists. Time passes differently in a maximum security prison. Hours can feel compressed when occupied or endlessly stretched when idle. Many incarcerated individuals develop personal routines to cope reading, writing, exercising in limited space, or tracking days through calendars and journals. Housing units at NECC vary. Some consist of traditional cell blocks with single or double occupancy cells. Others house individuals in more restrictive settings, depending on security classification or disciplinary status. Privacy is minimal. Noise carries. Tension can build quickly in close quarters. Recreation, when allowed, provides brief relief. Outdoor recreation typically occurs in fenced yards under supervision. Movement is regulated. Interaction is limited. Even these moments are governed by strict rules and schedules. Recreation may be canceled due to staffing shortages, weather, or security concerns, reinforcing the reality that personal time is conditional. Medical and mental health services are part of daily operations. But access is structured, appointments are scheduled, requests are reviewed, emergencies are handled as they arise, though response times depend on staffing and unit location. Mental health needs are significant within the population. Many individuals at NECC live with long-term psychological challenges, the environment restricted movement, constant supervision. Limited autonomy can intensify stress, anxiety, and emotional fatigue for some. The routine provides stability for others. It amplifies isolation. Correctional officers operate under constant pressure. They are responsible for maintaining order, enforcing rules, and responding to incidents, often while overseeing large numbers of incarcerated individuals. The job requires vigilance, consistency, and emotional control. Every interaction is documented. Every decision can carry consequences. Most interactions between officers and inmates are brief and procedural. Instructions are given. Compliance is expected. Professional distance is maintained. Conflict is not constant, but it is always possible. Disputes over space, property, or perceived disrespect can arise. When they do, officers are trained to intervene quickly to prevent escalation. Discipline is enforced through established procedures, including loss of privileges or changes in housing status. What defines daily life at NECC is not a single dramatic moment, but repetition. The same corridors, the same schedules, the same rules day after day for some incarcerated individuals. The routine becomes a form of survival, something to hold onto in a controlled environment. For others, it becomes a reminder of time passing slowly, measured not in milestones, but in counts and meals. This is the reality inside Northeast Correctional Center, a place where structure governs every hour, where movement is permission-based, and where daily life unfolds quietly under constant supervision, far from public view. In the next section, the focus shifts to discipline, security levels, and how NECC manages behavior in a maximum security environment, including segregation, control measures, and the consequences of rule violations. Inside Northeast Correctional Center, control is not expressed through constant force, it is enforced through routine. Every movement inside the prison follows a structured schedule designed to limit unpredictability. Doors open and close at designated times. Counts occur multiple times a day. Meals, recreation, work assignments, and medical visits are all regulated by procedures that leave little room for flexibility for incarcerated individuals. Learning the routine is not optional, it is essential for survival. A typical day begins early. Morning count requires inmates to stand where they can be clearly seen, confirming their presence. Failure to comply can result in disciplinary action, even if unintentional. After count, breakfast is distributed under strict supervision. Conversations are limited, movements are controlled. Housing units at Northeast Correctional Center vary depending on classification. Some inmates are housed in shared cells. Others are assigned to more restrictive environments based on behavior, security risk, or administrative decisions. In higher security units, time outside the cell is limited, and interactions are closely monitored. Recreation periods are structured and supervised. Inmates may be allowed limited access to outdoor yards or indoor recreation areas, depending on staffing and security levels. These moments, though brief, often become the most anticipated part of the day, not because of freedom but because of movement, space, and a change in environment. Work assignments and programs exist but are limited. Some inmates work in maintenance, kitchen services, or institutional support roles. Educational and vocational programs are offered when resources allow, though availability can fluctuate based on staffing and funding. Participation is often competitive, and waiting lists can be long. Medical care operates under similar constraints. Routine appointments must be scheduled in advance, and emergency care requires rapid coordination between custody staff and medical personnel. Oversight reports emphasize that timely access to care is critical in a high-security environment where delays can escalate minor issues into serious situations. Mental health services play an important role inside the facility. Many individuals arrive with existing psychological challenges, while others develop symptoms over time due to confinement, stress, and long sentences. Counseling and psychiatric care are available, but demand often exceeds capacity. For staff, maintaining order requires constant awareness. Officers are trained to observe behavior, recognize signs of tension, and intervene before situations escalate. Documentation is thorough. Every incident, no matter how small, is recorded and reviewed. Despite the structure, unpredictability remains. Lockdowns can occur without warning. Schedules can shift due to staffing shortages. Entire units may remain confined longer than expected. When routine breaks, tension rises. In such an environment, adaptation becomes a skill. Inmates learn when to speak and when to remain silent. They learn how to navigate shared spaces, avoid conflict, and manage frustration. Survival is often less about strength and more about restraint. Section 4 reveals a core truth about Northeast Correctional Center. Control is not only physical. It is psychological. It is built into time, space, and repetition. And for those inside, every day becomes an exercise in endurance measured not by years or sentences, but by how well one learns to live within the system's limits. Life inside Northeast Correctional Center is shaped less by dramatic moments and more by repetition. Each day follows a strict schedule designed to maintain order in a high-security environment. Count times, meals, work assignments, and movement periods are carefully structured. For incarcerated individuals, the predictability can feel stabilizing or suffocating depending on how they cope with confinement. Mornings begin early. Housing units come alive with movement as officers conduct head counts to confirm everyone is present and accounted for. Doors open in controlled sequences. Inmates prepare for the day inside shared cells or dormitory-style units, depending on classification and housing assignment. Breakfast is served on a fixed schedule. Meals are simple, nutritionally planned, and eaten either in housing units or designated dining areas under supervision. Conversations are limited. The atmosphere is controlled, calm on the surface. We're always alert. After breakfast, the facility transitions into daytime operations. Some incarcerated individuals report to work assignments. These may include facility maintenance, kitchen support, laundry services, industrial or vocational programs unit, cleaning details. Others attend educational or treatment programs when available. NECC offers opportunities for GED preparation, substance use treatment, and vocational training, though access depends on eligibility. Behavior history. An institutional capacity. Movement between areas is tightly regulated. Groups move only when cleared. Officers monitor each transition. Delays are common, especially when staffing levels are low or security concerns arise. When delays happen, schedules shift, and frustration builds quietly for those without work assignments. Long stretches of time must be managed inside housing units. Recreation periods offer limited relief access to outdoor yards, exercise equipment, or indoor activity spaces depending on security status and whether recreation is supervised and time-restricted. Inside the housing units, personal space is limited. Cells are functional, not private. Belongings are minimal. Noise levels fluctuate throughout the day. Some inmates pass time reading, writing letters, exercising, or watching television when permitted. Others withdraw, conserving energy and avoiding attention. Staying out of trouble often becomes the primary goal. Tension exists even during routine moments. Crowding, noise, conflicting personalities, lingering disputes. Arguments can form quickly but are often handled through separation, verbal commands, or unit lockdowns before they escalate. Officers rely heavily on presence, routine enforcement, and situational awareness to maintain order. Medical and mental health services are available, though access depends on scheduling, staffing, and security needs. Appointments require coordination, and movement to medical units follows strict escort procedures for individuals managing chronic conditions or mental health concerns. Consistency is critical, but consistency is not always guaranteed. Delays and rescheduling are part of institutional life. Communication with the outside world remains a vital connection. Phone calls are limited and monitored. Mail is screened. Visits follow strict rules and schedules. For many, family contact provides emotional stability. Missed calls or delayed mail can deepen feelings of isolation. For others, distance from the outside world becomes a coping mechanism. Less expectation, less disappointment. Correctional officers face their own pressures, long shifts, constant vigilance. Managing large populations with limited resources, their role requires balancing enforcement with de-escalation, consistency with judgment. Most interactions are brief and procedural, but every decision carries weight in a maximum security setting. What daily life at NECC reveals is not constant chaos but constant control. Order is maintained through structure, safety through routine, stability through repetition. Yet beneath that structure lies an ongoing challenge, managing human behavior in an environment built to restrict it. Each day passes quietly for most. No headlines, no cameras, no public attention. But within those ordinary days, the real work of the institution happens moment by moment, decision by decision, shaping the experiences of everyone inside its walls. At Northeast Correctional Center, security is not a background feature. It is the framework that shapes every moment of daily life. As a maximum security facility, NECC houses individuals serving long sentences, including those convicted of serious violent offenses. Because of that population, the prison operates under strict control measures designed to prevent assaults, contraband movement, and organized disruption. Movement inside the facility is carefully regulated. Incarcerated individuals do not move freely from place to place. Every transition from housing units to recreation, from medical appointments to work assignments requires authorization, escort procedures, and precise timing. Doors open and close on schedule. Counts are conducted multiple times a day. Any deviation is documented. Correctional officers rely on layered security systems, controlled entry points, surveillance cameras, reinforced doors, and clearly defined response protocols. These systems are designed not only to maintain order, but to reduce unpredictability, one of the greatest risks in high-security environments. Despite the structure, tension can still surface. Overcrowding, long sentences, and limited privileges create constant psychological pressure. Small conflicts over space, noise, or perceived disrespect can escalate if not addressed quickly. Officers are trained to intervene early, using presence and communication before situations turn physical. Discipline at NECC follows a formal process. When rules are violated, incidents are reviewed and documented. Consequences may include loss of privileges, restricted movement, or placement in more controlled housing units. These measures are not arbitrary. They are part of an established disciplinary system intended to deter repeat behavior and protect both staff and incarcerated individuals. Restrictive housing. sometimes referred to as segregation, is used selectively. Individuals place their experience greater isolation and reduced interaction, often for safety or investigative reasons, or considered necessary in certain cases. Such housing is closely monitored due to its psychological impact. For those living inside NECC, discipline is not just about punishment, it is about predictability. Many incarcerated individuals adapt by following routines closely, avoiding attention, and minimizing risk. Stability, even in a restrictive setting, becomes a survival strategy. For staff, maintaining discipline requires balance. Officers must enforce rules consistently while remaining alert to signs of stress, frustration, or escalation, fatigue, staffing shortages, and repeated exposure to high-stress situations make the job demanding both physically and mentally. What emerges inside Northeast Correctional Center is a controlled environment that functions through constant vigilance. Security is not static. It is actively maintained hour by hour, shift by shift, and while the systems in place are designed to prevent chaos, they also shape the human experience inside the prison, defining how people move, communicate, and endure long periods of confinement. At Northeast Correctional Center, punishment does not always arrive in loud or visible ways. Often, it arrives quietly after months or years inside a maximum security environment. Many incarcerated individuals begin to experience a different kind of pressure, not physical force, not direct confrontation, but the slow, grinding weight of constant control. Every movement is scheduled. Every interaction is monitored. Every mistake is documented. Over time, this level of regulation reshapes behavior. Men at NECC learn to measure their words carefully, to limit eye contact, to avoid unnecessary attention in a facility where small missteps can escalate into serious consequences. Emotional restraint becomes a survival skill. Silence becomes protection. For some, this structure provides a strange sense of order. For others, it creates internal tension that never fully releases. The mind is always alert, always calculating risk even during moments meant for rest. Mental health professionals working within Missouri's correctional system have noted patterns common in long-term maximum security housing: heightened anxiety, emotional withdrawal, difficulty trusting others, trouble sleeping, hyper-awareness of surroundings. These reactions are not signs of weakness. They are adaptive responses to an environment where unpredictability carries consequences. NECC houses individuals with varied backgrounds and sentences. Some are serving long-term or life sentences. Others will eventually return to the outside world. But regardless of sentence length, the psychological imprint of maximum security can be lasting. Isolation, whether through restricted movement, limited recreation, or separation from family, can amplify existing mental health challenges. Phone calls are limited. Visits are structured. Physical contact is restricted or prohibited. Relationships on the outside continue, but often at a distance that grows wider with time. For correctional officers, a psychological burden exists as well. Working inside a high-security facility requires constant vigilance. Officers must remain alert, neutral, and composed, even in tense situations. Over time, the same hyper-awareness that keeps them safe can follow them home, manifesting as stress, fatigue, or emotional distance. Many officers describe the job as mentally exhausting rather than physically dangerous. The weight of responsibility never fully disappears. Inside NECC, programs exist to reduce these pressures: educational courses, work assignments, religious services, and counseling. Participation varies depending on classification, behavior, and availability. When access is consistent, these programs can provide structure beyond confinement. But when access is limited, the absence is felt deeply. This is the reality of life inside Missouri's most secure institutions. Control is constant, safety is prioritized, and the psychological cost is real even when no rules are broken. As time passes, the question for many inside NECC is no longer how long they will remain, but who they will be when they eventually leave. And that question leads directly into the next chapter of this story. By the time an individual has spent years inside Northeast Correctional Center, the environment stops feeling temporary. For many, it becomes permanent mentally. emotionally, and psychologically. Northeast Correctional Center is not designed for short stays as a maximum security facility. It houses individuals serving long sentences, including life terms and decades-long convictions. The result is an atmosphere where time stretches, repetition dominates, and the future feels distant or undefined. Days blend together, weeks lose distinction, years pass with little external change. For incarcerated individuals, this creates a unique psychological pressure, not explosive, but grinding. The pressure comes from predictability without relief. From knowing tomorrow will look exactly like today, from living in a space where movement, speech, and behavior are constantly regulated. Mental health professionals who study long-term incarceration describe common patterns that emerge in environments like Northeast: emotional flattening, heightened irritability, difficulty concentrating, sleep disruption, social withdrawal, increased sensitivity to noise. Or routine changes. These reactions are not signs of weakness. They are adaptive responses, too. Prolonged confinement and control. Inside Northeast, access to mental health services exists, but demand often outweighs availability. Appointments are scheduled, evaluations are conducted, crisis interventions occur when necessary. But long-term psychological strain does not always present as an emergency. It presents as slow erosion. Some individuals cope by creating rigid personal routines, counting steps, reading the same materials repeatedly, exercising in limited space, tracking time through meal schedules or counts. Others withdraw almost entirely, speaking less, interacting minimally. Conserving emotional energy. Correctional staff are trained to recognize behavioral shifts that may indicate deterioration or distress. Changes in sleep patterns, refusal of meals, agitation, or isolation are monitored, but identifying long-term psychological decline is more difficult than responding to visible incidents. The structure of the prison itself reinforces this pressure. Concrete walls, steel doors limited. Natural light, restricted movement. These are not temporary conditions, they are constant. For individuals serving long sentences, the concept of getting through time changes. The goal is no longer release. It becomes survival, stability, avoiding disciplinary issues. Preserving mental control. This psychological weight affects staff as well, officers working. Long-term assignments in maximum security units describe emotional fatigue, hypervigilance, and stress accumulation. The environment requires constant awareness, even during routine tasks. Over time, that level of alertness becomes difficult to turn off. Despite this, the system continues to function. Counts are conducted, meals are delivered, programs operate when available, security protocols are followed. From the outside, Northeast Correctional Center appears controlled and orderly. From the inside, it is an environment that quietly reshapes behavior not through force, but through duration. And as years pass, the question shifts. Not can someone endure this place, but what does endurance slowly turn into? That question carries forward into the next section, where the focus moves beyond daily life and psychological survival toward accountability, oversight. And what happens when people eventually leave maximum security confinement? For many who pass through Northeast Correctional Center, the experience does not end when the gates open, release, transfer. Or parole marks a change in location, but not an immediate return to normal life. The structure, pressure, and constant vigilance required inside a maximum security prison leave lasting impressions that follow individuals long after incarceration. Those released from Northeast often face a difficult transition. Daily life on the outside moves faster. Decisions come without instructions. Freedom arrives without a manual. Simple situations, standing in line, navigating crowds. Managing schedules can feel overwhelming after years of rigid structure and constant supervision. Inside the prison, every movement is controlled. Outside, everything happens at once. Many formerly incarcerated individuals describe a lingering sense of alertness, a habit of scanning rooms, listening closely to sounds, positioning themselves near exits. These behaviors are not signs of weakness. They are adaptations, learned responses to environments where awareness was necessary. For safety. Employment presents another challenge. A criminal record limits opportunities. gaps in work history raise questions, background checks become barriers. While some reentry programs provide job training, counseling, and transitional support, access varies. Success often depends on external resources, family stability, and community support factors not everyone has. Mental and emotional adjustment can be just as difficult. Extended exposure to confinement, tension, and institutional rules reshapes how people process stress, authority, and relationships. Rebuilding trust takes time, so does relearning independence for some. The way of the experience leads to isolation for others. It becomes motivation to avoid returning, to rebuild, to start over. But reentry is not only about individuals. Families also carry the impact of incarceration. Parents age, children grow up, relationships stretch under years of distance, restricted communication, and limited contact. Reconnection after release often requires patience on both sides learning how to communicate again, how to share space, and how to rebuild routines that were interrupted. From the system's perspective, Northeast Correctional Center is designed to serve a specific role: secure confinement for individuals whose behavior charges or sentences require high levels of supervision. Officials emphasize that safety both inside the facility and in the broader community remains the primary goal, yet the long-term outcomes raise difficult questions. How does prolonged exposure to high-security environments affect behavior after release? What support is necessary to reduce repeat incarceration? Where does accountability end and rehabilitation begin? These are questions without simple answers. What is clear is that the effects of Northeast Correctional Center extend far beyond its walls. The facility shapes lives during confinement and continues to influence them long after sentences are served as individuals move forward, carrying both responsibility for past actions and the weight of institutional experience. The line between punishment and preparation becomes increasingly complex, and that complexity sets the stage for the final chapter of this story. In the next and final section, we step back examining what Northeast Correctional Center represents within the American prison system and what its existence says about security, justice, and the cost of confinement. Northeast Correctional Center does not exist in isolation. It is part of a larger correctional system, one shaped by decades of policy decisions, public safety concerns, and evolving ideas about punishment, accountability, and rehabilitation. What happens inside its walls reflects pressures felt across prisons throughout the United States. For Missouri's correctional system, NECC represents one of the most demanding environments to manage. Its population includes individuals serving long sentences, individuals with complex behavioral histories, and individuals navigating a mental and emotional weight of extended incarceration. For staff, the facility requires constant balance. Security must be maintained, order must be enforced. Safety must be preserved for everyone. Correctional officers, medical staff, counselors, and administrators all operate within a structure where mistakes can carry serious consequences. The work is repetitive, procedural, and often invisible to the public but essential to keeping the institution functioning. For those incarcerated at NECC, the experience leaves a lasting mark. Time inside a maximum security prison reshapes how people think, react, and perceive the world, even for individuals who follow rules and avoid conflict. The environment itself is restrictive by design. Movement is limited. Choices are controlled. Personal space is minimal. Some adapt by building routines. Some withdraw. Some struggle. Some change in ways that are difficult to reverse. For individuals who eventually leave Northeast Correctional Center, whether through parole, sentence completion, or transfer, the adjustment back into society can be challenging. After years of strict structure, the outside world moves differently. Ordinary decisions require relearning. Crowded spaces feel unfamiliar. Independence can feel overwhelming. Families carry their own version of the experience. Relationships change, time passes, connections strain under distance and limited contact. When reunions happen, they are often quiet, cautious, and layered with complexity. The person who returns is not always the same person who left. Public perception of places like NECC often swings between extremes. To some, facilities like Northeast Correctional Center represent necessary security institutions designed to protect communities from serious harm to others. They raise difficult questions about long-term incarceration, rehabilitation, and the human cost of confinement. The truth, as with most systems, exists somewhere in between. Northeast Correctional Center is not defined by a single story. It is defined by thousands. Each cell holds a different past. Each corridor carries different outcomes. Each day unfolds quietly, without headlines, without cameras, without attention. Yet its impact is real. It shapes lives. It shapes families. It shapes the broader conversation about justice and corrections in America in the end. Northeast Correctional Center is not just a prison. It is a reflection of how society responds to crime, responsibility, and consequence, and how those responses continue long after the gates close behind someone. And that is the lasting reality behind the walls of Missouri's maximum security system. Stories like this don't end when the cameras turn off. If this documentary helped you understand what life is really like behind these walls, support the channel by liking the video, share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters. And if you want more real prison stories, crime documentaries, and deep investigations from inside America's toughest facilities, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. More stories are coming. If this story helped you understand what life is really like inside America's most notorious detention centers, consider subscribing to the channel. New long-form crime documentaries are released regularly, each one carefully researched, responsibly told, and focused on the realities behind the headlines. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Thank you for watching.